Good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I do want to thank Manchester Metropolitan University for their support in the Connect project, and in particular both Jane and Allison as the ideators of this incredible learning adventure. I'm Dr. Lynn Boorady from Team Buffalo State, and I'm here with my senior level fashion merchandising student, Jennifer Steinhorst, who you'll hear from later this afternoon. Buffalo State is in the second largest city in New York, near Lake Erie, and about 20 miles south of Niagara Falls. We are right on the border with Canada, and often go there. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the U.S. consumption of textiles in this image of sustainable innovation. So first I wanted to take a look at what the global apparel market is. 1.7 trillion in 2012, and I felt when I was reading these numbers, I always feel like when students come to visit my school and their fathers are with them, they're like, oh really, what can she do with a degree in fashion? And I start throwing these numbers around and telling them, well, as the fifth largest industry in the world, I don't think your child will have a problem finding a job in their niche in our industry. So what about the US fashion industry? Well, last year, every single man, woman, and child in the United States purchased an average of 64 garments and 7 pairs of shoes, over $1,700 each. In all, Americans purchased about 20 billion garments and nearly 2.5 billion pairs of shoes. As you can see from the chart, American families spent over $350 billion at retail on new clothes and shoes. In terms of our economic footprint, if you take a look at the chart, you can see that the apparel and footwear industry is larger than our alcohol, which, quite frankly, I'm glad about that. But we always hear about our automobile industry. We're larger than that. Soft drinks, fast food, you can even combine the soft drinks and fast food, still not as large as our apparel and footwear industry. This one I'm expecting to elicit an audible gasp. 97% of our clothing that that American citizens wear is imported. Audible gasp. Over the past 2 decades, the U.S. lost 750,000 jobs in apparel manufacturing sector alone. Currently, we employ less than 150,000 in manufacturing. Part of this is the race to the bottom that the American industry has been doing. So where is the cheapest labor? Where in the world do we go for the cheapest labor? And we've been moving from country to country trying to get cheaper and cheaper labor over the past 2 decades. So a little bit about the US retail. An estimated 2/3 of the US GDP comes from retail consumption. We have 280,000 fashion retail outlets in the United States. 27.5% Americans shop at least 3 times per month, 22.5% at least once a month. And we have 14.4 million people working in retail. So, one of our favorite pastimes, going to the mall. In 1929, the average home size was about 1,300 square feet. In the 90 years since, we have doubled that, and little more than doubled, to 2,800 square feet. This is what a 2,800 square foot house looks like. It's not my house. In the UK, in Australia, the homes are slightly smaller than this. In the UK, homes are about 1/3 of the size of US homes. And in urban areas of China, homes are about 1/4 of the size. The average closet space in an American home is total closet space is about 200 square feet, but you can think of that as a 20 by 20 foot room on the main floor. That does not include our basements where we love to store product. The average American family spends about 4% of their take-home pay, so our average yearly salary is about $50,000 a year, so that makes up about $1,700, with the average woman spending $53 a month just on clothing, and men spending $35 per month, or about 75% of what the women are spending. So that comes as no surprise that of the 250 largest retail companies in the world, 33% are based in the United States, with Walmart being the global leader. Just a couple of them, the Target rates number 10, Sears 27, TJ Maxx, which is TK Maxx here in the UK. They also own HomeSense in the UK. They own Marshalls and Sierra Trading Post, which is a catalog company that sells sporting goods at a discount. Also L Brands, that's the new limited brands, but that's only including Victoria's Secret, Pink, Henry Bendel, and La Senza. Compare this list with the fact that Apple Retail is ranked at number 50. So we've got, about 6 companies larger than Apple that sell mostly clothes. And this doesn't include the other major retailers in America that don't sell clothes as their primary retail business, such as Home Depot and Lowe's. In terms of e-commerce, between 2012 and 2014, we grew by 20%. And as we heard yesterday, the biggest trend in shopping is shopping from your mobile phone. That trend extends to the United States. One thing I found interesting is that 4 times as much women's clothing is sold through e-commerce than men's. And I find that interesting because most of the men that I know go to the store, find the shirt, buy the shirt, and leave without trying it on. Whereas most women go in and spend, the next hour or so trying on 27 pairs of jeans to find that perfect pair that will enhance their body. So the fact that we're buying that much more clothing online, bringing it home, and in talking with a lot of the online retailers, we evidently like to shop a lot, bring 4 or 5 pairs into our homes, try them on, and then return anything that doesn't fit. We train our children young to shop. The average amount spent per child on back-to-school clothing is $131. Compare that to their school supplies, where we buy $48. So that's the paper, pencils, and other accoutrements that they need to actually learn. Year-round spending for lower-income families is about $28 a month per child, toddler and infants, about $44 for teenagers. Higher-income families, that jumps up to $44 for infants, $78 for teenagers. And if your child happens to play sports, you can expect on spending another $700 a year just on sport clothing. Some families have hit well over the $1,000 range, depending on the sports. Teenagers. Our teenagers like clothing as well. As you can see from this chart, our teens spent 30% of their income just on clothing. Entertainment is their next most important category. 1 out of 4 teens admit to being obsessed with having stuff, including the latest electronics and certain brand name clothing. 61% of all teenagers say that they bond with their family and friends while at the mall. Therefore, it's not surprising to find out that teenagers greatly prefer shopping in store. 77% of them prefer shopping in store than shopping online. 65% of high school students get money to shop from their parents, either in terms of extra spending money or in terms of some sort of an allowance. 27% spend money that they earn at their own job, and 10% claim that they don't have any money at all to go shopping. The value of just U.S. footwear is $72.4 billion at retail. Now, if we had the audible gasp for our clothing import penetration, our shoe wear import penetration is at 98.6%, even higher. And 8 out of every pair of shoes sold in the United States was made in China. U.S. footwear companies, and we do still have some footwear companies in the United States. Brown Shoes headquarters is in St. Louis. They make the Naturalizer and Famous footwear. Nike is still headquartered in the United States. They do not manufacture. New Balance is the only sneaker company that still manufactures in the U.S. They employ just over 1 million U.S. workers. So on average, every American, including every man, woman, and child in the United States, spent about $230 on 7 pairs of shoes last year. And they're filling up their closets quite well, aren't they? So U.S. clothing and textile waste. 1 year's worth of discarded textiles products take up approximately 126 million cubic yards of landfill space. There should be another audible gasp in there somewhere. The average charge for unloading or dumping of waste in the U.S. in a landfill or transfer facility is about $44 per ton. So if we kept those textiles out of the landfills, we would save the U.S. economy more than $375 million every year, just in the fees alone. Now, the U.S. has a collection at curbside, in at least most communities, certainly in the cities, for products such as recycling, plastic, and glass. However, we have no formal collection policy for collecting used household textiles and clothing. And the average consumer throws out 2 large garbage bags filled with clothing every single year. There are economic benefits to creating some sort of enforced textile reclamation. That industry employs 85 times more workers than all the landfills and incinerators. So by enforcing some sort of collection of used textiles, we can employ a lot more people. So what's going on with today's U.S. customers? Well, I think it's the same in a lot of countries. We have this appetite for fast fashion. The newer the better. We shop for fun, for pleasure. Clothing is seen as a disposable commodity. You wear it a couple of times and it goes back in the back of your closet, not to see daylight again for a while. We have a lot of one-off events, such as a high school formal or prom. Wedding dresses are typically a one-time event that we spend a lot of money on the dress. So these disposable commodities are filling up our closets and not getting any use. What are we doing with all of them? We get bored. We have found that fast fashion and disposal rates have a strong positive relationship. So as the fast fashion has grown, so has our disposal rates. Already, recycling in the U.S. is a billion-dollar industry, and that's for all kinds of recycling. But considering how little Americans recycle, it could be even larger. Currently, less than 35% of households and less than 10% of businesses in the U.S. do any sort of recycling. Americans throw away about 2.5 million plastic bottles every hour. Audible gasp. Every 3 months, Americans throw away enough aluminum in landfills to build our entire nation's commercial fleet, air fleet. More than 28 billion glass bottles and jars end up in landfills every year, and that's equivalent to filling up the Empire State Building, 2 of them every 3 weeks. Thank you. Is it any wonder that the United States has trouble recycling clothing and household textiles? And I found it particularly interesting. Just this week, my local newspaper came out with what our local recycling habits are. And Niagara Falls, which gets over 25 million visitors a year, recycles 11% of the products, which is abysmal. And that was actually pretty good compared to some of the other communities in Western New York. And that's even considering the fact that in Western New York, our cans and bottles all come with a deposit. So we pay 5 cents at retail, and then we get 5 cents back when we return them. And even that's not incentive enough to recycle our bottles and cans. So why do we only recycle 15% of our used clothing? Part of it's convenience. I mean, we're the country that invented, fast food drive-throughs, so we don't even have to get out of our car to eat anymore. So we like convenience, and it's not convenient to package up all your clothes, put them in the boot of your car, drive somewhere, take them out, and give them up. We would prefer something much easier. So what do we do with our old clothing? Well, if we do recycle it, as opposed to just throwing it away to fill up our landfills, we sell it to consignment shops. We take it to secondhand stores that are either charity or for-profit. Now, one city that's actually doing a little bit of good here, this is a company called Wearable Collections. They actually place collection bins in apartment buildings. You get permission to place them in the apartment buildings in New York City, so that people who live there can then just dump their clothing off in the building. So a few items at a time. They don't have to wait until they have huge bags of it. They also have collections at green markets, and schools hold fundraisers by collecting garments. And what I thought was one of the most brilliant is that movers will have special bags through this company that, say you are moving to a new apartment, you're moving your things, you are going through everything that you own, what you want to keep, what you want to give away, and all of your clothes that you want to dispose of are put into a special bag, and the movers take it to the textile recycling for you. You don't actually have to do it yourself. Some of our not-for-profits you might have heard of, the Salvation Army. They help recovering addicts with the money proceeds that come from selling our used clothing. Goodwill does youth mentoring and job training. St. Vincent de Paul is a Catholic organization that helps the poor and homeless obtain food, clothing, medical care, and dental care. And then we also have something called Dress for Success, where business clothes get donated. And so if you're wanting to get off welfare and you need to apply for a job, you can go to Dress for Success to get your first suit. And if you get the job, they'll outfit you with a working wardrobe. All of the earnings from these companies go directly to whatever their missions are. We also have some for-profit, so if I want to get rid of some of my clothes, I can take them to Clothes Mentor. They will look through, pick the best of them out, and give me cash on the spot, about 30% of what they're going to sell it at retail. So I recently bought a jacket there for $18, which means that they paid $6 to whoever gave that jacket to them. Clothes Mentor has about 1,500 franchises in the United States. They're meant for business women. Plato's Closet is the teenage version of Clothes Mentor. They have about 400 locations in the United States. And then we also have individual small businesses like Second Chic, which goes out to the market and finds antique and high quality used garments to sell in their stores. The Clothes Mentor and Plato's franchise also has one for children called Once Upon a Child, where they resell used children's clothing. Consignment shops are run a little bit differently. In a consignment shop, you drop off your clothing and you don't get any money until it actually sells. Typically, you'd get, though, 50 to 60% of what it sold for. However, some people have to give up their clothing at that point, and after the consignment shop, if it doesn't sell, it goes to wherever the consignment shop wants it to go, not to where perhaps the consumer might want to give up their clothes if they were just giving them away. What happens with our textiles? Well, here's a slide that tells you 45% reused as apparel, 30% are cut into wiping rags, 20% is reprocessed, and 5% is considered unusable. So we are recycling 95% of the items in your closet. And here are some of the things that we're doing with them. Nike takes athletic shoes and cuts them up and makes playground surfaces. Everlast uses clothing to fill their punching bags. They literally just shred it right inside their factory, and it goes down a chute inside these punching bags. Transamerica is one of the largest of about 3,000 textile recyclers in the United States. They alone process more than 12 billion pounds of post-consumer textiles each year. So what happens with our clothing when we give it up and it's not sold in the US? We actually send it overseas. And more than 60% of our textile waste is sent abroad. And what we're seeing, I took some pictures from Africa, and this is a mitumba, or a bundle of, literally bundles of clothing. So, the environmental impact. Now remember that we're only recycling in the US 15% of our clothing. So the impact of 2 million tons of textiles that we currently recycle is the equivalent of removing 1 million cars from America's highways. So take that and not only double it, but triple it, quadruple it, etc., until you get to where we're actually recycling 100% of the clothing. Now, founded in 1932, so this isn't a new thought. Recycling Textiles has been had a trade association since 1932. They have 79% of their locations are in the United States, but 8% of them are international countries such as Mexico, South America, and Europe. Their over 200 member companies brought out more than 4 billion pounds of post-consumer textile waste every single year. Now, we're not all bad. The textile industry is trying to do some good, and a few of the companies that I'm highlighting here are Patagonia, which has incredible transparency throughout its supply chain. The founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, I believe, my French is terrible, was a mountain climber and an outdoors person, so he founded the company with the idea of having a sustainable company. They team up with eBay and encourage their consumers that instead of throwing away old Patagonia clothes, please sell it through eBay. They're also the first company in California to be certified as a B Lab company. And B Lab is a nonprofit organization that certifies corporations that are, the B is for benefit. So they benefit the workers, the community, and the environment. And my favorite campaign right over here is in 2011, Patagonia did a campaign around Christmas time called Don't Buy This Jacket, where they encourage consumers that don't buy this jacket if you don't need it, if you've got one that's already good, or if you're not going to reuse or recycle the garment that you already have. And I thought that was a brilliant campaign. Eileen Fisher, it's all backwards. Eileen Fisher, that's one of her garments up there. She has 4 stores in America called Green Eileen, where her people who buy Eileen Fisher, she has a very strong following of consumers. So her consumers can go to her store, bring back their garments, get a $5 gift card for more of their garments, and then all of the used garments that Green Eileen sells goes towards helping out women's and children's charities. The VF Corporation, which owns North Face, 7 for All Mankind, Lee and Wrangler Jeans, Lucy Activewear, among others, have a whole corporate sustainability umbrella over all of their organizations that goes in their 3 pillars, which is the planet for environmental sustainability, products in terms of their devotion to developing and producing products in a sustainable manner. And they also have something called Clothes the Loop, which is the play on words. And what they do with that is that if you bring back one of their garments to certain ones of their stores, they'll give you a coupon to buy a new garment with. And then I just wanted to highlight one company in the United States, one small company making a difference. That's Alabama Channon. And what they do is their garments are made from 100% organic cotton, sewn by hand through a group of artisanal. Yes?
I was going to say, do you know when they did that Don't Buy This Jacket campaign, they actually sold more?
2011 Christmas.
Well, I don't know. I think did they do another one this year?
Yeah, they did.
They did?
They actually sold more, didn't they, from doing the campaign?
Thank you. Alabama Channon, you can actually go down to their factory in Alabama, and their factory has a little full-service cafe. It houses workshop headquarters. It has a flagship store as well as event space. So a wonderful atmosphere. So what's our mindset? How much clothing do you really need? And I went on a website called Living Simply, and it says that for working women, so think about the clothes that you've got inside your closet right now. Because what Living Simply says is that for most women, you only need 7 to 9 work outfits, 5 to 7 casual outfits, 2 to 3 outfits for relaxing at home, 3 pairs of work shoes, and 3 pairs of casual shoes. Anybody have more than that? Okay. So rethinking your clothing purchases before you go out and buy some more. And one of the statistics that I found is that the 91% of all women in the U.S. have a pair of jeans. Most own about 7 pairs of jeans on average. 25% own more than 10 pairs of jeans. But for the most part, we only wear about 4 of them on any regular basis. So we've all got jeans sitting in our closet, not really doing anything but taking up space, which is why we need 20 by 20 rooms to hold all of our items in. So I'm just going to end with one of my favorite quotes from Vivienne Westwood: buy less, choose well, and make it last.